Hello there, math friends. Today we are taking a look at day 2 of percents and percentages and all things marvelously percentage based. And the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to convert ratios to percents and decimals, and percents to ratios and decimals to ratios and percents. How great does that sound? Not complicated at all, right? So, it says here, for each row, we are going to fill in the missing information. Remember that you can write each percent and decimal as a ratio first. Okay, we can definitely do that. Well, as you can see here, first thing I want you to do is make sure that you're on a clean sheet of paper, right? The next page in your math notebook after the vocabulary notes, and copy this table down. First thing we've got here is, you see that we have a ratio, or a fraction, right? Fractions are ratios, fractions, ratios. They're the same thing, okay? A ratio is a fraction. So remember that. And also remember that percents are out of 100, right? And we use the percent symbol, okay? Out of 100. So, and decimals, of course, you know decimals have a decimal point. Well, let's get started first of all. Let's convert this ratio to a decimal and a percent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move everything over here, and my ratio or fraction is 1/3. So I am going to convert 1/3 to a decimal first. So that means I'm going to divide. I am going to divide 1 divided by 3, because remember, it's always top down. 1 divided by 3. So 1 goes inside, 3 goes outside. All right? So how many times will 3 go into 1? Well, 0 times. And so I have to add a decimal there. Bring that decimal up, and I add one more 0 here. Now I can divide again. How many times will 3 go into 10? Well, that's 3 times. And 3 multiplied by 3 is 9. I subtract 10 minus 9, and I get 1. And I would have to bring another 0 down and keep dividing until I cannot anymore. 3 goes into 10. Oh, look at that. 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to keep doing this. But why would I do that? I know at this point that that is a repeating decimal, so I have to either keep going until I run out of stuff to do, or I find a repeating decimal. And here's my repeating decimal. 0.3 repeating. So the decimal is 0.3 repeating. Okay. Well, and now, and I can even add, a 3 there. Now, 0.3 repeating, if I want to turn that into a percent, I would take and multiply 0.33, and this is the easy part. Multiply that times 100. And when I do that, 0.33 times 100, if you do that on a calculator, that will work out to be about 33%. It'll be like 33.3%. Okay? All right. Well, that means we're going to move on to the next one. Okay? The next item here is, it's a percent, and it's 66 2/3. That's a mixed number. Now, you and I have talked about how hard it is to work with mixed numbers. Let's convert it to an improper fraction first. So that means we would multiply 66 times 3, and we would add 2. So 66 times 3 is 198, plus 2 is 200 thirds. So here it is, 200 thirds. And there's our ratio. Okay? Now, we've already learned how to convert a ratio to a decimal. We'll do that one more time over here. 200 over 3 is like that. Remember, we divide down, so that would be 200 divided by 3. And so 200 goes on the inside, 3 goes on the outside, 3 goes into 20. 6 times, that's 18 when you multiply. 20 minus 18 is 2. Bring the 0 down. 3 goes into 20 6 times. 3 times 6 is 18. We'll subtract. 20 minus 18 is 2. Oh, I have a remainder. Means I have to add a decimal. Bring that decimal up. Add on a 0. Bring that 0 down. 3 goes into 20. That's 6 times. 3 times 6 is 18. What? 20 minus 18 is 2. Add a 0. Bring that 0 down. 3 goes into 20 6 times. You can see this is just going to keep on repeating, right? So we are good to go. We can write our decimal as 66.6 repeating. Okay, see how easy that was? This is awesome. All right, so that brings us to our third one, starting with the decimal. The decimal is 1.25. Now, we convert decimals to percent by multiplying by 100. So we would multiply 1.25 times 100. And your calculator will tell you that 1.25 times 100 is 125. And yep, that's right. It can be 125%. It can be more than 100%. Okay? And we know that percent means out of 100, and so 125% is 125 out of 100. Now, if we want to simplify that, we certainly can, but we don't have to, so we're not going to. 125 over 100 for our fraction. Awesome. Let's move on. Part B. We want to solve by using the correct setup. What percent of 250 is 221? And it says we want to read this critically. Identify which is the part and which is the whole. So we want to set up our proportion, part to whole, percent over 100. So we have part over whole equaling percent over 100. So in this case, 250 is the whole, 221 is the part. And so then we want to know, how do we get to 100? Because we're looking for the percent. What percent of 250 is 221? So, just like every other proportion, we have to say, hey, how do I get from 250 to 100? Well, I would have to multiply that by 100 over 250. And if I did that there, I would have to do the same thing up top. Multiply that times 100 over 250. So, then when I go over here, I have 221 times 100 over 250. I'm going to put a 1 under that. 221 times 100 is 22,100 over 250. And when I when I divide 22,100 by 250, I get 88.4. So that would be 88.4%. 221 is 88.4% of 250. Okay? Now that seems complicated, but it really isn't. Remember, when we were doing scale factor way back when, we always had to divide that number by this number to know what we were going to multiply by. Well, and that's what we have here, 100 divided by 250. And we can just use that fraction. It's pretty slick. All right, let's take a look at this next one. It says that Ricardo has sold 13 boxes of popcorn out of the 40 that he had to sell. So he sold 13 boxes out of 40. Please make sure that you always write down everything that I highlight. So he has sold what percent of his popcorn? Sold what percent of his popcorn? right? Well, we have to make sure that we set this up as the part compared to the whole. What's the part? What's the whole? Well, he had 40 boxes of popcorn, so that's the whole. He sold 13, that's the part. And remember, 100% is always the whole. So, how do we go from 40 to 100? Well, 100 divided by 40 is 100 over 40, so we can just multiply by that. And we multiply up here by that same amount, 100 over 40. So then, what is 13 over 1 multiplied by 100 over 40? 13 times 100 is 1,300. 1 times 40 is 40. And 1,300 divided by 40 is 13.5. So, that means he sold 13.5% of his popcorn. Always make sure that you label your answers. 13.5% of the popcorn was sold. Okay, that brings us to the last one. It says that Jimbo made 40% of his attempted free throws. He attempted 15 and made how many free throws in total? So this one's going to be set up a little bit different, but remember, it's always part compared to whole. Okay? So, what's the part? What's the whole? Well, we know that he made 40%, so that's 40 out of 100. And he attempted 15, so that's the whole. Those are the shots that he tried to make. So we want to know how many did he get. So here goes. How do I get from 100 to 15? Well, 15 over 100 is what I multiply by. Now I do the same thing up top here. Multiply 40 times 15 over 100. So I go over here and I say, all right, 40 times 15 over 100. 1 there. 40 times 15 is 600. 1 times 100 is 100. And 600 divided by 100 is 6. So, that tells us that he made 6 free throws. All together. Make sure you always label your answers. 6 free throws. You always want to make sure that you answer your essential questions. Explain why it is important to determine the part to the whole and to critically read. Why is it so important to determine what's the part and what's the whole? I hope you know the answer to that question. And why should we critically read the problems? It all comes down to how can you solve a problem if you don't know what it's asking you to do? All right, folks. We've come to the end of our Lesson 2 notes. I hope you did a great job and that your notes were neat. Remember, they're only useful to you if you can read them. So and always remember to write down everything that is highlighted. Okay, have a great day and don't forget to be awesome.